Welcome to Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad, the podcast that prepares you for one of life's toughest yet inevitable moments, stepping in when your parents need you most. Hosted by Chris Spade, a senior real estate specialist with Keller Williams Realty. We'll dive deep into more than just moving. We're talking smart financial planning, making tough decisions with confidence, and strategies to avoid being caught in crisis mode. Join us for real stories, expert insights, and actionable steps to stay ahead of the curve. Now, here's your host, Chris Spade.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad, the podcast where we help Gen Xers navigate our aging parents and our life. I am super excited because today I'm thrilled to welcome Rosemarie Litoff to the podcast. Now, Rosemarie is a seasoned reverse mortgage specialist with greater than 10 years of experience helping seniors navigate the complexities of home equity and financial planning. Now, her mission, and this is important, is to educate and empower families, particularly those helping aging parents, to make informed decisions about reverse mortgages as part of their downsizing journey or long-term financial strategy. Now, through her expertise and maintaining her certified reverse mortgage professional designation, now get this, fewer than 200 U.S. originators have this designation. So this is super important. Rosemarie has become a trusted resource for seniors looking to stay financially secure while maintaining independence. Welcome to Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me.
Now, we're all Gen Xers, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that she's picked up her old school phone receiver. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you got to go watch it over on YouTube because it's we had an old yellow phone with a receiver like that. So that is home to me.
Well, this is my brand. It attracts folks to say, what the heck are you carrying that around for? And I'll say, well, anyone that recognizes this could possibly want to get educated on what I have to share.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's dive into it. And I don't think a lot of people know, but what exactly is a reverse mortgage and how does it differ from a traditional mortgage?
Okay, so a reverse mortgage, just like it says, goes backwards. Many people still have traditional loans. They're between 55, my market is between 55 and 105. Mm-hmm. Some folks do have, some don't. But on a traditional loan, every month you're paying down a bit of your principal. Most people get to age 55 and forward, and they're never going to pay off their mortgage. And every month they're throwing money at it. They also show up at their financial planner's office and they say, gosh, I've got a great portfolio, but I've got all this equity in my house. I'm not leaving my house. How can I use that equity? That's where I come into the picture. And because a reverse mortgage allows you to pull that equity out. It's tax-free because equity is never taxed. And it's a non-recourse loan, meaning that kids, families, etc., you selling your home, Miss Client, will never owe more than the balance of the value of the home.
That's cool. That's cool. So who qualifies specifically for a reverse mortgage, and are there any age or home equity requirements?
Certainly. As I stated, I do loans for folks 55 to 105.
Have you ever done a loan for a 105 person?
I did a refinance on a loan of a gentleman that was 93. And a refinance, and folks don't know you can refinance a reverse mortgage. And he was not upside down, but he was getting close to being what I'll call in the traditional world upside down, where the loan balance is exceeding the equity. So I couldn't do the loan for him, but we could stay in touch because he was a great person and he loved his loan. Mind you, since he was age 60, at the time I was 62, up till I talked to him, he was in his 90s, he had never made a mortgage payment.
Wow. So when you do a reverse mortgage, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but let's say you do get that reverse when you're 62, you're not making any payments whatsoever, and you get to stay in that property, correct?
You can you can voluntarily make payments if you don't want that balance to go up.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be kicked out of your property, unlike you'll see some bad media sometimes. You've got to keep your property taxes current.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep your homeowner's insurance current,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got to keep the property current.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my story of I got a call from a neighbor of a client, a potential client, and there was sewage running in the street.
Mm.
Well, obviously, this person had not been maintaining the home. So those are the reasons that your mortgage could go bad.
Got you, got you. So you talked a little bit about media and misconceptions. So what are some of the misconceptions about reverse mortgages that you often hear about?
That it's a loan of last resort. Folks will say, "Oh my gosh, my grandmother's running out of money. She needs
Mm-hmm.
a wash machine." But it's not. It can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's use that equity and get grandma stable.
Yep.
Or you could be like one of my other clients. We set up he was a financial planner, is a financial planner. We set up a $100,000 line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, $1 million line of credit. We could fix that. Set up $1 million every year. He goes into that line of credit and pulls out $100,000. He's building homes in India. He's putting in sewers and waters and schools, etc., for girls that would not get an education. Think
Oh,
about how
that's
smart
cool.
this is. He's getting a contribution write-off, charitable contribution write-off. He's not paying taxes. This line of credit that we set up is growing. It's on an adjustable rate, and it's growing right now around 8.5%.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a savings account that grows. Go in there, pull it out. The money then goes on the loan balance. Loan balance is going up, but he's got this availability of this cash.
Nice.
So so that's probably a long-winded answer to your short question, but there's so much to share that people don't know about this product. People always say they can get kicked out of the home. I address that. You cannot unless you
Yeah,
keep the home.
that was my understanding that once you're there, you're there.
You're there provided you keep up with, like I
The
say,
payment or
taxes,
the
insurance, and
house and the
the
taxes and
house,
the insurance.
etc.
Yes.
They say the kids are going to get stuck with a bill after I pass. No, the kids will not get stuck with a bill. What happens is I show you in the beginning an amortization table. Your loan balance is going up, but so is your value going up. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you 20, depending on your age, I'll show you within the next 10 years, the balance will be this. The kids will put the house up for sale. The bank gets the sales price. If there's a difference, you're paying on a monthly basis, you're accruing mortgage insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's an FHA loan. FHA loans require mortgage insurance. And that's the bank gets their payoff. The mortgage insurance fund kicks in if there was a shortage, not the kids.
Got you. Oh, got you. Okay, so that was another thing because I have had people ask me, am I going to get stuck having to put any into this? So once your parent passes using this loan program, the kids aren't going to be kicking in anything.
No, and sometimes the kids want to purchase the home,
Mm-hmm.
and they can at 90% of the value. Sometimes, most of the time, the kids don't want the house,
Yeah.
just like they don't want the silverware and the couch and everything else. The
Yep.
kids have their own stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So the home gets sold, and that it's just like a traditional loan. Home gets sold, loan gets paid off. Anything extra goes, whatever the trust said, to whom the funds will go to. Or if there's a shortage, like I say, and particularly in California, we don't have those kinds of challenges with the
Yeah.
way the property values increase.
Excellent. So let's talk about the costs associated with obtaining a reverse mortgage. How do they compare to other financial tools?
Okay, so the costs are out of pocket before we start this loan. you're required to do independent counseling. I give you a list of 800 numbers. You're required to call one of them. It's about a 1 hour counseling session. And
Okay.
the counselor wants to make sure you understand that I've presented it clearly enough and you understand what you're doing. The counselor will also ask you for a budget and why you want to do this, etc. Completely independent of me. Cost of that is about $200 out of your pocket. And it's, right now, and what's been going on for the last year or so, California has grant money. So folks are telling me there's no cost for that.
Okay.
Secondary cost is I need to run credit because what I'm looking for is foreclosures, bankruptcies. Do you own another home? And are you making mortgage payments? And can you keep that up with your income? So that's another cost. That cost to run credit now is about $125.
Okay.
The third cost, which I don't do till we're pretty far down the process, is the appraisal. The appraisals run between 600 and 900.
Okay.
And there can be two. But generally, if there is two where the lender decides, oh, you're the lucky one, you get the two, the lender will generally pick that up. And of course, the lender will take the lowest appraisal cost. Cost for appraisal, like I said, is $600 to $900.
Okay. Well, that's not terribly bad. So all in, you're looking at what, maybe $1,200?
Less than $1,500 out of your pocket.
Okay.
Now, what about when folks have done loans, they know that there's escrow and title and lender fees and
Correct.
notaries and all that. All of those fees are added to the loan balance, not paid by the client.
Oh, okay.
So out of your pocket is what I've stated. The other costs are added to the loan balance. And of course, interest is going to accrue on that.
Okay.
And then
Excellent.
the extra cost is this mortgage insurance that I alluded to. What the
Mhm.
mortgage insurance is doing is, like I said, should the loan go upside down, the mortgage insurance fund is going to kick in, keeps it a non-recourse loan, meaning kids don't have to pay for it. So when I quote an interest rate, say the interest rate is 6, I'll generally quote 6.5
Okay.
on an annual basis because that mortgage insurance there's an upfront cost, upfront 2% of the value, and then 0.5% a year.
Okay. 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 Well, so it's a little bit different, but not way different from a regular purchase loan.
No, and the media and others will make that way out of proportion.
Okay.
That's why folks have to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. I've done hundreds of these now, and I've seen all kinds of scenarios, but there's always something different that comes along.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, so we just talked about, this is if somebody is in their home and they want to do a reverse, but they can also use this to actually purchase a completely different property,
yes,
correct?
correct. You can do a refinance, what we would call in the traditional world, take your current loan and pay it off and pay off maybe credit cards or whatever, or you can purchase a home with a reverse mortgage. And even if you want to do a refinance and you don't have a current mortgage, that's okay. You've got more equity. Stay in that home. But say, I'm done with this house. I raised
Mhm.
my kids here. It's got a swimming pool. I need to move.
It's
You
too
can do,
big.
it's too big. You can do a manufactured home, purchase a manufactured home. A lot of
Oh,
folks don't know that, as long as the land is owned by you.
okay.
Um, and those loans, you need to put down about 50%. So what I tell folks is you just sold your 6-bedroom home for $800,000
Hmm.
and you got a check for $800,000 after the costs,
Hmm.
etc. They'll say, well, I'm going to take that 800,000. I want to buy something else. And I'm going to say, well, at the stage and age you're at, there might be healthcare needs coming up. Why
Yeah.
not take $400,000, put it down on a home, still not have a payment because you've got a reverse purchase, no payments due. Again, it's just the taxes, the insurance.
Insurance.
But once you tie up that money in a home purchase, sometimes it's lots of luck to get it out when you need it for healthcare, etc. So if you've got it stashed away and you're not making payments, you're still getting what most people want in retirement.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So let's talk about risks for a second. Are there any risks or downsides to reverse mortgage that seniors and their families really need to be aware of?
Yeah, when I start working with someone, I do like a discovery worksheet before I start asking for any numbers. One of the downsides is if you tell me you've got grandchildren in New York and you live in California, probably within the next 2 years you want to move out and you want to go stay with those grandchildren. I'll say we're not doing no mortgage. Reverse
Mhm.
mortgage is basically a long-term mortgage. I've also got other clients that want to move. Maybe they want to move in 2 years, but it's going to take them 2 years to clean out their house.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're every month writing a check for a mortgage payment, and that could be extra cash flow for them.
Yeah.
So as far as risks, the loans are insured by FHA. And there's about 15 different lenders that do these loans, and the fees are and the costs are all the same, but it's the communications and the services that I look for when I decide where I'm going to place that loan. So as far as risk, if a lender goes out of business, again, they're insured by FHA. So FHA will move them from lender A to lender B, and nothing changes.
That is cool. Okay, so far everything seems good, right? Like we're not seeing any big red flags here. So, how now? I know a lot of people are thinking about this. So I think I shared this with you. I have a friend of mine who I said, "Well, why don't you just do a reverse?" Because he doesn't plan on leaving any sort of inheritance to. He's single, not married, no partner relationship, no kids, and so I know a lot of people because this has kind of come up in my own family. Inheritance. So, how does a reverse mortgage affect the inheritance or legacy of a senior that might leave to their heirs?
Well, what I like to do is sit around a table with children, financial advisors, accountants, whomever the professionals are in the client's life, and I show them an amortization table. I say, right now, I'm estimating the appraised value of your home is this.
Mhm.
Based on the numbers you've given me, you're entitled to get that. Because people say, oh my goodness, my house is worth $1 million. Why are you showing that we're starting here at 600,000? I said, that's because you're very young. The older you are, the more you're entitled to,
Mhm.
which makes sense, of course, for the bank, right? So I'll show the client and their advisors around this table. In 20 years, grandma's moving out and her value's been going up in her home, right?
Mhm.
So that's hers. It's not the bank's.
Mhm.
Bank is not on title. Grandma's been on title all this time, and provided, I've got an estimate of what the market's going to look like in 20 years,
Okay.
based on the appreciation and based on an adjustable rate or fixed rate, whatever it is. This is how much you, as the people that are going to inherit, could potentially look at.
Nice. So you don't have to worry about that as a kid wondering what's going to happen to my inheritance, or if there isn't is even one. Because we told our dad, my brother and I, because he's made some comment about whether or not there'd be enough money, and we both told him, we said, "Dad, just spend it. It's yours."
That's right. There are a lot of kids that are not like you. I'll
Yeah.
say that. But there are a lot of kids that are and say, you know what? You earned this, mom and dad. You've painted the stairs and the porch and fixed the roof and done all these things. And now it's your time.
Okay, so you touched on this just slightly, but I want to cover this a little bit more in depth. So, what role do reverse mortgages play in financial planning for healthcare or long-term care costs?
Huge, huge part. Because for most people, their home is their biggest asset. And here in California, what we've seen with values, I mean, they're just going through the ceiling.
Yep.
So what I tell folks is, you're healthy today. Both of you are healthy, or one of you, whatever, however many people are living in that home.
Hmm.
But tomorrow, Grandpa could fall down the stairs.
Yep.
Grandpa falls down the stairs, and then, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We take Grandpa to the hospital. He gets put back together, but maybe he hit his head. Maybe dementia is setting in, etc. Gosh, we don't want to go off to those, different communities. We want to stay home
Hmm.
so we can bring care in. Oh, how are we going to pay for that? that can be really expensive when you start to look at it. I mean, you can be paying thousands every month. But oh, by the way, we've set up a line of credit here, and that's growing. We can pull money out of that line of credit and keep grandpa in the house.
That is so cool. So there's just, yeah, so because long term, you and I had this conversation when we chatted about a week ago. Long-term care facilities are very expensive, and they don't like to call it a buy-in, but when you get into certain care facilities, but yeah, they're quite expensive, some of these.
And you're away from, you like your home and you like your stuff where it is, right?
Your neighbors,
Your
you know
neighbor,
where everything is.
you know where the doctor is, you're still driving, or maybe as you go down the road, you're going to get, Uber tickets or something like that.
Yep.
But there are a lot of people that don't want to go in. And oh, by the way, you've got a dog
Yep.
and you love your dog.
Yep.
And is the dog going to be able to go with you to the community? And do you want to sit around the table and have to get dressed in the morning to go down for a cup of coffee?
Yep.
No, maybe you don't. So there's pros and cons. And
Mhm.
it's what is your, how do you like to operate?
Oh, this is a good question. What happens if a borrower outlives the value of the loan or the home?
That is one protection that they have with a reverse mortgage. You cannot be kicked out of your home. If values go south, and like I said, you're 97 and you got the loan when you were 60, you're still living in that house.
That's awesome. So nobody has to worry. Nobody's going to be homeless.
Nobody's going to be homeless. Keep your taxes current. Keep your insurance current.
And keep the
Keep the
home in good
house in
shape.
a decent shape. You're not getting kicked out of that house.
All right. So that's, again, Gen Xers. This is a good thing to know. Are there protections in place to prevent homeowners from being forced to sell or move? It sounds like there's not, right? Like there.
Unless you keep, you've got to keep those, you've got to keep current, and they're
Mhm.
watching that. HOA dues, taxes, and insurance. But no.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second, because in condo complexes, if you're not current on your HOA dues, then an HOA can foreclose on the property. So and I don't think a lot of people know that. Now, a lot of HOAs don't necessarily do that, but they can do that. They have the right to do that.
And I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I've seen it happen too, unfortunately, when you've got
It's sad.
these astronomical HOA bills that are like, I think the largest one I've seen is like $64,000. And I'm like, who doesn't, like,
Yeah.
you got to do something. You can't just let that go all willy nilly. So let me ask you this. How can Gen Xers and their family members support their parents in deciding whether or not a reverse mortgage is a right choice for them?
Okay, I've got a client right now with Gen Xers, and house was a wreck, big time wreck. And they wanted to do it and close by this date and all that. I said, we're not touching anything. Is it a problem because we haven't dumped our septic tank in 5 years? Is it a problem because there's a ceiling that's falling down? Is it a problem, just down the list, the house was a complete disaster. And so I spoke to the children and I said, we're not doing anything here. But
Mhm.
mom and dad don't want that mortgage payment anymore. I said, that's great, but this house will never appraise.
Yep.
And it's not safe.
Yeah.
You Gen Xers see mom and dad's home and you see, red flags. You see a path to the wash machine that's got all kinds of things in front of it. You see that the stove doesn't work. You see the windows are broken. Those are the kinds of things. Get in there and get those things. Reverse mortgage or not, let
Mhm.
mom and dad live in a safe house.
Right. So as us Gen Xers, we need to also be well aware and have the foresight and responsibility to make sure that the house is maintained. I mean, we can do that. Those are little things that we can do, right?
Yes, we can do that. Another product that a lot of folks don't know about is they're so excited today. They've refinanced their house and they've got a 3% loan, right?
Hmm.
And they don't want to touch that.
Right.
But we'll be chatting and they'll say, well, I've got this wonderful loan, 3%. I'm so excited, et cetera, et cetera. I cut it from 7%, et cetera. I said, yeah, but how are you doing on credit card debt? Oh, that's probably around 28% right now. And
Yep.
I'm thinking to myself, well, let me run you a little table here and I'll show you. You've got a 3% loan and you've got a 28%. We got a little problem here. Why don't we get those credit card paid off? Well,
Yep.
I'm not touching this loan. Okay, fine. Let's talk about what's called a reverse second, which is a
Yep. That was
product.
going to be my next question.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about that, where you can keep your first and put on what's called a reverse second. Again, no payments until the home is sold. You can pull out based on your age. Reverse is based on age, your mortgage, if there is one, and the value. Let's see what's in there. Maybe there's something we can pull out and get rid of that 29% credit cards.
And then they're still pocketing money, because you're not having to make those large credit card payments.
Exactly. So you're still pocketing money. I tell folks, if I was a mean person, I'd come over to your house with a hammer and I'd go knock, knock, knock on the walls, and money would pour out, because that's what equity is. It's sitting in the walls of your house. Let's put it to use. Let's send that grandchild to college. Have you always wanted to? I've got a client right now. They've always wanted to see their roots in Ireland, and their house is going to allow them to do that. Um, I've always, the stories that I hear and things that people want to do. Meanwhile, they're sitting on a house that's valuable, and let's use that equity and use it safely.
So what I find is there's a lot of people. Now, I live in University Heights, and there are so many people who bought their homes in these homes they're old. I live in a neighborhood where down the street, I have an entire row of historic homes, and they're just little 2-bedroom, 1-bath craftsmen's, and they're worth $1 million. And I've got neighbors who have purchased these homes 70 years ago, right? They're 90 and they bought it when they were 20. And so they paid like $9 for the house, right? And so there's just all this equity that they can do so much with. And now some of them are needing, what I find is when I do open houses and I meet some of these older people, they're like, oh, I'm going to go to my house feet first. I'm never selling. And I always joke with them and I say, well, you can always put me in your will or trust that I'll sell your house when you do go out feet first. You just tell your kids, right?
Yes, right.
But you're right. There's just so much equity and so much you can do. And as Gen Xers, we don't need to be stressing or worrying about whether or not we're going to bring mom and dad into our house, right? There's so many options
Oh
for
my
that.
gosh. And you go to the store and you get gas today and et cetera, and you think, oh my goodness gracious, the bills are, am I going to have enough money to be able to stay in my house and live my lifestyle? You get to, you've been working hard all your life, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to make it in these golden years?
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is a way to make that happen.
That's awesome. So, are there any scenarios where you just wouldn't recommend a reverse?
Yeah, if somebody tells me they're moving,
Yeah.
yes, the answer is yes. Somebody has a home and they refuse to fix it up, because it's not safe. I'll say,
Hmm.
no, we're not doing that. Um, and then if the children are completely won't even talk to me, mom's not doing this. Okay, bye bye.
Yeah.
I that kind of a thing. As far as I do fire clients, I do that as well when I see that this isn't going well,
Yeah.
because the I'm held to a very high standard,
Hmm.
and I've got clients. For example, people say, "Well, I don't know how to use a computer." I said, "That's fine." I said, "Gather all your documents." I just closed a loan up in Fresno. I'm in the state, licensed state of California. She doesn't use a computer. She doesn't use email.
Yep.
She only keeps a cell phone uncharged and charges it when she goes off to see grandchildren. One of those kinds of,
Yeah.
she's in that mode. I said, that's fine. I become very good friends with the Office Depot managers or Staples manager. And I say, take all these documents that you need. And there's very few with the reverse. Take them into the manager and he will scan them and put them into my secure site.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
so I can work with those types of clients very, very easily. And, people will call me and they're so thankful they cry. People will stand over their gladiola bulbs in the backyard crying because they can stay in their home. The presence of a home means so much, and you've worked so hard for that home. Let's see how we can figure out to keep it and keep your cash flow going.
That's awesome. So let me ask you the last question.
Of course.
What advice would you give someone who is just starting to explore whether a reverse mortgage is a good fit for their needs?
If they're local San Diego, up to just Temecula. Let's put it this way: Temecula. I'll visit in person. We'll have a cup of coffee,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll meet at your home or something, and let's just chat about it. If you're not ready for that, maybe you want to do a Zoom call. We can do that. Do you want a book? I'll send you a book. I'll send you marketing material. That's the starting place. I have clients that I did that with years ago, and they're calling me today because now they're ready. One interesting thing about a reverse mortgage qualification is folks will say, well, I'll just be fine and I'm going to take all this cash out, et cetera, and I'll just get a HELOC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe are you going to qualify for that HELOC in 10 years? Reverse mortgage qualification is interesting. One person is $599 of bottom line income. Two people is $998 monthly income. Most of that is Social Security. So income qualification is very low on a reverse mortgage.
Oh, that's interesting.
So as opposed to walking into the bank and the bank's going to say, no, you do not qualify. So qualification levels are pretty low, and most people qualify with Social Security.
Interesting. Well, is there anything else you want to share that I haven't asked you that you think is important that people need to know?
No, I think we've covered some of the basics. I'm sure you're going to put my telephone number and
Yeah, well, give everyone your number.
Sure. The number is an 805 area code,
Mm-hmm.
which looks a little strange here in San Diego. I'm a widow. I became a widow over almost 30 years ago, and I sort of hung on to that number. I was living in Ventura County, but I'm here. I'm in Rancho Bernardo. So it's 805-657-0432.
And your website is rosamariereverse.com.
Yeah, and on that website, I've got about 12 or 15 now YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
They're less than 2 minutes long, and they're called whiteboard videos.
Yep.
So there I am explaining things on a variety of different topics.
Yeah, and they're easy. They're very, very easy. I looked at a lot of them. I didn't go through all of them, but I looked at a lot of them. And that's what really excited me when you sent me on that and I was going through the material. I was like, okay, she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about.
So that's me. It's rosamariereverse.com. I gave you my phone number, 805-657-0432. Email is a little longer. It's capital R. Then my last name is Litoff, Litoff, like Frank, at financialcorp.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to put all of your contact information in the show notes below. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate your time. And anybody, if you have any questions whatsoever, if you're driving and you couldn't obviously take that down, just shoot me a text, or we'll, get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with Rosemarie. It's very easy. We can just make introductions very, very quickly. But thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my passion.
Thank you. All right, everyone. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.